Like I said, she thought I had money. She thought I had money. She wanted a couple of Tiffany engagement rings. So I said, we can get married. I figured a marriage, show her that I love her, show her it's going to be all right. So I was like, oh, let's get married. She's like, well, I've always wanted a Tiffany ring. Shit, I didn't have money to buy the Tiffany ring because all my money was overseas. So here I am. I defraud. So it's counterfeit cashiers. I find a 3-carat ring on eBay for 20 grand and pay for it with a counterfeit cashier's check. At the same time, because she doesn't want me to leave, she needs me there. Typically, if you're doing that type of crime, you need to be traveling. You can't do it in one central area because you're going to be identified pretty quickly. I knew that, but I didn't have much choice. So start running counterfeit cashier's checks to get the money to live and everything. Get the engagement ring. We were scheduled to be married. Our wedding date was February 26th, 2005. February 8th, 2005. I've got a Tiffany wedding band, a couple of them coming in, and I get arrested in Charleston, South Carolina. And she didn't know. I told her, I said, I've got to go pick up those rings. She thought I was just having them sent in. I said, I got to go get those rings. And I said, we'll go out to dinner after that. And I left at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was arrested at, I think, 11:30, something like that. Of course, I wanted to call her, and the FBI got me. It turns out it was controlled delivery. There were like 30 agents in the parking lot. FBI got me. Charleston PD got me. Within 45 minutes, the Secret Service comes in, takes over that investigation. They knew exactly who they had. Long about 7 o'clock at night, they're like, we want to search your house. And I was like, look, I'll sign off on the search if you let me go with you so I can see her. And they were like, okay. So I got to see my phone at that point. I had like 140 calls that where she had been trying to call all that time.
She was worried.
Yeah. And so they load me up, and hell, I mean, you talk about 10, 12 cars, 40 agents, everything else. She's got a dog at that point. I'm scared they're going to shoot the dog. And it was dark, and they have me walk up, and they're all behind me. And I knock on the door and tell her the police are there, and she needs to put the dog up. So she does, and they come in and just start ransacking it, put me in cuffs, set me down, start berating her with questions. She had no idea what the hell was going on.
Were you able to say a word or two to help her understand?
Yeah, I was trying to tell her, and at the same time, they take a watch off her wrist. They let her keep the ring. They're telling her that I'm this guy. What's my real name? Bang, 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 bang across the board.
So she's probably terrified.
Oh yeah. And I tell her, I was like, look, they're going to arraign me tomorrow. Don't come. I said, I'll see what's going on, but don't show up. Of course, she's there the next morning, her and her dad. And she's back in the back crying. They're reading off the charges. I'm under $300,000 bond, everything else. And that's it. They throw me in a cell. Meanwhile, more charges keep coming in, and it's like 10, 12 charges a day at that point. And I'm trying to call her to make sure she's all right. And
does it get through?
So I spend 3 months in jail. And during that 3 months, she visits twice. I get like 3 or 4 phone calls to her. Looking back now, I understand why. Back then it was like, I'm the victim. Why doesn't she talk to me? But, now I understand why. Hell, the girl loved me too. She found out I was this piece of shit. And after a week in county jail, 2 agents fly in from New Jersey, 2 Secret Service guys, pulled me out of a cell, looked at me, and they were like, we got your laptop. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, have you got anything on your laptop? I was like, yeah. He's like, you're going to be charged for it. I was like, I figured. And then he looks at me, he's like, can you do anything for us? And I told him my exact words were, look, you let me get back with Elizabeth, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And he looks at me, he's like, we're going to get you out. I was like, all right. So they let me sit there for 3 months to get a taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
And get me out. My sister, they have the bond reduced to $1,000. My sister pays the $1,000 bond. By this point, she's disowned me, and because I'm dating the stripper. And Denise bonds me out. The person that I call immediately is Elizabeth. I'm out. And she's like, I'll be there. I was like, okay. So this like 11 o'clock at night. I'm in the parking lot of the Charleston County Jail. Me and a Secret Service agent standing there. And Elizabeth had a friend that owned a limo company. So she pulls up in a limo, gets out, pops the trunk, gets these 2 plastic containers out that have my clothes in them, drops them on the pavement, comes over, hugs me, call me later, gets in the car, drives off. I'm sitting there crying like a baby. Agent looks at me, is that your fiance? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I am so sorry. And I'm like, yeah. So I had,
Oh, she sounds fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
Pull up in a limo.
I had $30 to my name at that point.
Yeah.
$30. The agent had to pay for my hotel room that first night. So he drops me off after paying for the hotel room, buy me something to eat. As soon as he drops me off, I take that $30, walk a half mile to Walmart, buy a prepaid debit card so I can start back in tax fraud. As soon as I get back to the hotel room, call Elizabeth, beg her to come see me. She comes to see me, and we talk most of the night and convince her to give me a chance. I tell her that hey, everything's going to be all right. They're going to hire me. I'm going to be this big consultant. Lies, just so she get back with me. And she's like, okay. And so we moved from Charleston. The field office is in Columbia, South Carolina. And I'm breaking the law. Even before I start working with them, I'm breaking the law. And so they've got me in the office. The field office, they got this big war room in there. I'm on a laptop outside line. Laptop's hooked up to a 50-inch plasma monitor on the wall. They've got a desktop sitting directly next to me, outside line, 2 Secret Service officers in the room at all times with a South Carolina law enforcement officer. Mm-hmm. My job is 4 to 6 hours a day, surfing the web, picking up targets, intel, teaching them how cybercrime operates, everything else like that. For the first 2 weeks, they are extremely diligent. They pay attention to everything that's going on, ask questions, everything else. But the problem is that shit gets boring real quick because I'm very fast online doing that. So they're like, what the hell is he doing? And it gets tiring looking at a guy just doing that shit. So after 2 weeks, they get lazy and bored, and they start watching porn instead of watching me. At the same time, they've got a keylogger, and they've got Spectre Pro and Camtasia keyloggers, and taking snapshots of everything that I'm doing. Every night it goes on a DVD-ROM on a spindle. So I'm like, they're not going to go through that shit. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, fuck it. Start breaking the law from inside the Secret Service offices while they're in the room. Why not? That continues for 10 months. At the same time, the relationship with Elizabeth completely fell apart.
Do you have an understanding of why? It's just because of her heart got broken because there was lying.
It was the
she
trust.
Felt like she did a lot
Yeah.
to sacrifice for the relationship.
You got a woman there that she had even said it. She was like, she had told one of her friends, we were out having dinner one night, and this is before I got arrested. She told one of her friends that I was the only guy that ever asked her to stop using drugs.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say that part of the story is so powerful, and then that she chose to do it, and she chose to stop.
And she told me that there was one instance she told me that if she didn't marry me, she'd never be married. And as far as I know, she's never been married.
And so it started to fall apart there.
Yeah, because I was that piece of shit.
Still, you didn't take a step. By the way, can I just say how just moving it is how honest you are, Brett?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being that person. But at that time, there's still that lying.
Oh man, yeah. So it's falling apart. She wants to start going to strip clubs, and I'm like, fuck it, why not? We'll go. So we start going to strip clubs, and she'll come back and get wasted, and we'll have sex, what have you. And one night, she looks at me and she was like, I think it'd be funny if you got a blowjob from somebody else. And that got me. I was like, to me, that was the final straw right there. I was like, she doesn't care for me anymore or anything else like that. We've been going to strip clubs, so I started dating another stripper. And she knew something was going on. And she looks at me one day and she's like, why don't you just tell me that it's over? And I looked at her and I said, it's over. We're done. And I told her, I was like, look, I said, whatever you want. We were renting an apartment. I was like, whatever you want in here, take it. And I said, not only that, but I'll make sure you got money for several months so you're all right. And I was like, just leave me, leave my TV and leave me some plates and stuff. So I go to work that day at the Secret Service, come back that night, and she's taken everything and left a picture of herself in the bedroom on the floor. I'm like, okay, I guess I deserve that. So
she's got, I like her. She's got,
yeah, she was cool. She was cool. So I'm giving her $1,000 like every 2 weeks or some shit like that. And it gets to the point because I'm doing this tax fraud from inside the offices. Well, the debit card companies are pinging the cards. They start to realize that, hey, some son of a bitch is stealing money using our debit card. So they start to shut down the cards before I can pull cash out. So I start not to have the money to send to her. And I'm like, she calls and she's like, look, I have to have money. And I was like, well, look, I'm doing what I can. You promised money. And I was like, look, if you knew what I was doing to get this money, you wouldn't be asking that. And she's like, I need money. My rent's behind by a month right now. And I'm like, your rent's behind? She's like, yeah. So I was like, okay. So I pick up the phone, call the rental office. And I was like, just want to make sure that, I'm sorry I'm behind on the rent for this apartment number. Oh, no, that rent's paid up 3 months. It's like, okay, hang up, call Elizabeth back. I was like, you're behind on the rent. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, funny. They just said you're up on it 3 months. And she gets quiet and she's like, well, you lied to me too. And I was like, you're right. I did that. Yeah. I was like, but look, I can't do it anymore. And that's the last time I spoke to her right there. What happens is I was breaking law from inside the offices. I had a buddy that his name was Sean Mims out of Los Angeles. I had taught him how to do tax return fraud. I had told Sean, I go missing, right? I go missing for 3 months. I told him if I ever went missing, not to contact me. And so I go missing, then I show back up online. First day, he contacts. So he becomes a target. And they identify him pretty quickly at that point. He's set to be arrested sometime in March of 6. That's when he's set to be arrested. Operation Rolling Stone was the name of the operation. 9 people were supposed to be arrested that night. So Secret Service goes and arrests this guy. They search his apartment and don't find anything. The apartment manager comes out and explains to him how Sean has done all kinds of work to the apartment. As a matter of fact, he brought in $30,000 worth of Italian tile to put in the apartment that he's renting. And by the way, last night he had a U-Haul out here and took out a whole shitload of stuff. So Secret Service comes back in. They look at me and they're like, we need you to take a polygraph. And my answer was, I ain't taking a polygraph. So they're like, well, we'll throw you back in jail if you don't. And I was like, call my lawyer. Lawyer gets me on the phone. He's like, you don't have to take the polygraph. I was like, well, good. I'm not going to. He's like, but they will throw you back in jail. I was like, don't want to do that. He's like, have you done anything? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you can try to pass the polygraph. I'm like, okay. So I was like, let's take the polygraph. They asked 3 questions. The questions were, have you talked to anybody? Have you been on a computer outside of the offices? Have you talked to the press, which I was interviewing with a New York Times writer the entire time? And then have you contacted or warned anybody about investigations? And I failed the polygraph completely. So they revoked the bond. Take me back down to Charleston County, throw me into jail. 3 days later, Secret Service shows back up and pulled me out of a cell. It's Jim Ramacone and Bobby Kirby. And they were, I mean, honestly, they were good men. And they gave me chances upon chances to do the right thing. And I was not ready to do that. And Jim Ramacone and Bobby's in there. And Bobby was a friend. I mean, he truly was. Later on, a couple of years ago, I had a chance to have lunch with the man, and told him I was sorry for everything I did to him because I got him and another agent fired, and told him I was sorry for what happened. And he told me then, he's like, "We were your friends, man. We were truly your friends." So they were good men.
They wanted to help.
Yeah.
They wanted you to be a good man.
Yeah. Yeah. And what got me so damn bad is I told him, I was like, man, I'm trying to be a better guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, Brett, you always were a good guy. You just didn't know it.